Hello Cougars, and welcome to Get Ready for Room Selection. My name is Megan Rowe, and I'm the Director of Campus Housing. Joining me off camera are staff members from Campus Housing and Campus Services who are here to help you answer some of your questions in the chat if we don't get to them live. During the presentation portion of this event, I'll show you how room selection works using the MyHousing and Dining portal. I'll also share some reminders for what to discuss with your roommates before you select your space. We'll do a Q&A at the end for specific questions you might have. If we don't get to your question during the live event, please email or call Campus Housing with your questions. I'll put our contact information on the next slide. One last bit of housekeeping specifically for our Bridge students and our Honors ELLC students. If you are in either of these programs, you will be assigned a room and will not go through the room selection process. You are, of course, welcome to stick around for this presentation if you choose. With that, I'll keep things moving. Here are a few ways you can find out more about Campus Housing. We encourage you to visit our website for routine information like deadlines and processes. You may also email us at housing.cofc.edu or call us at 843-953-2015 if you have any questions. First, let's go over some important dates. As you may know, room selection will take place starting in June. Some honor students who wish to live in Barre will have the opportunity to select their housing on June 1st. This process has a lot of nuance, so we suggest that you read the room selection email you will receive in the next 24 hours carefully. June 2nd through June 9th is when incoming students will be selecting rooms based on assigned start times. You will find out your assigned date and time for your room selection no later than May 27th, which if you're watching this live is tomorrow. Generally speaking, the start times for room selection will be between 9:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But once room selection opens up to you, you can select a space 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Please make sure to sign up for your room by June 10th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you do not sign up by this date, you will be placed at the end of the wait list and we will not be able to guarantee you housing. August 18th is the deadline for making any changes to your meal plan within the MyHousing Dining portal. After that, you can still make changes until August 30th, but you'll need to do so through Campus Services HQ. Finally, some dates we're all excited about: move-in. Move-in for fall 2021 will take place Friday, August 20th through Sunday, August 22nd. Move-in dates vary by residence hall and are by appointment only. Details related to the move-in process, how to sign up, where to get keys, where to park, are all typically provided in July. Please refer to the What to Bring to Campus page on the Campus Housing site as you start to plan ahead. All right, so let's get started with room selection in the MyHousing and Dining portal. Your specific date and time for room selection will be based on when you submitted your completed housing application. If you are in a roommate group, your date and time will be based on the earliest completed application date in your group. You will receive an email from Campus Housing no later than May 27th, 2021 with your room selection date, time, and detailed instructions. Students in a roommate group will all be assigned the same date and time, and the group leader will select the building and the rooms. Since you've applied for Campus Housing, you should be somewhat familiar with the setup for the MyHousing and Dining portal. To get to room selection, you'll need to log into the portal, click the maroon Apply for Housing and Meal Plan button, and then continue with this year's housing application. As I mentioned earlier, Campus Housing will email you with your date and time for room selection. Once your selection time opens up, you will be able to see a new page titled Room Selection. Once you click on the room selection page, you'll see the building selection section. This includes some reminders from your housing contract, mainly dates of stay, and a reminder that the listed rates are for the 2020-2021 academic year. Our rates are set each year in mid-June by the College of Charleston Board of Trustees, so the rates that you see may change slightly. More relevant for the room selection process, though, is our room definitions, which you can also find on the Campus Housing website on the Residence Halls page. Just a quick note on private rooms, which are among the room definitions. Those will only be visible to transfer students, and they are very limited. This is just a sample page, so don't worry, you'll see all of the halls available to you at the time of your room selection. Once you find the hall that you'd like to live in, click Select. Next, you'll select the room you'd like by clicking the Add to Cart button on your desired space. Students will only be able to see rooms that are available to their group size. So if you're selecting at the same time as some of your friends, don't worry if your friends are in a group of 2, for instance. See different rooms available than your group of 4. The room card shows the number of spaces available, room type, and the current cost per semester. Each circle represents a room in the suite. The blue outlined circle shows how many beds are in the room you're viewing. So in this example, there are 3 rooms in the suite. Each is a double room, which means students share the room with one other person. And the current cost is $3,400 per semester for each student. 2 other things that you might see in the room card is a label with the RA suite or a paw print next to the room name. The RA suite label means that an RA will live in the suite. It does not mean that you will be an RA. The paw print indicates that the room is an approved animal room and may have a student with an approved animal in the space. If you have any animal aversions or allergies, you might not want to select this space. As a reminder, students are not permitted to have pets on campus, except fish that live in a 10-gallon tank or smaller. Click Show Room Info for more information about the room, including floor plans. You can also use the left-hand column to filter rooms you see to the right. If you click Show Room Info, you'll be able to see who is already occupying a space, if anyone, along with a link to their profile questions and their contact info. You'll also be able to review the specific floor plan for the room and suite. Once you've taken a closer look, click Go Back to return to the selection page. If you found what you want, click Add to Cart. This is an important detail, especially when we're all used to things like our Amazon shopping carts, keeping things forever. Once you click on Add to Cart for your room, you will have 5 minutes to complete your selection. So especially for roommate groups and group leaders, know that you'll need to select and assign beds within this time and then confirm your room selection. If you are a group leader, this is not the time to start texting your future roommates and make sure they're happy with your selection. Please go ahead and have them on the line if you need to so that you don't run out of time. If it takes you longer than 5 minutes and your cart expires, you will need to start over with room selection. As I mentioned in the last slide, the next step is to select your bed. And if you are in a roommate group, you'll also assign your roommates beds. If it's just you selecting for yourself, it's pretty straightforward. You click Select Bed to see a drop-down menu with available options. Select the one that you want and then click Assign Beds. If you are the group leader for a roommate group, you'll need to select your roommates' beds before clicking Assign Beds. Next, you'll see the confirmation page with the hall, rooms, and beds you've selected or assigned to your roommates. If everything looks good, click Confirm Room Selections. If you need to make changes, click Go Back. Once you click Confirm Room Selections, you are done with room selection and you will be taken to the application status page. If after you selected your room you wish to change rooms, you may do so by clicking the Change Room button on the application status page and follow the same steps that you did when you selected your original room. Please be aware that if you change your room and later decide that you want to change back to your original room, it is very likely that it will no longer be available. So make sure you're thinking about your decision. Many students have been asking what they should do to prepare for room selection. So here are some tips. Think about which amenities are important to you. Do you want to be close to a particular dining location? Do you want a full kitchen in your suite? Do you want to share a room or suite with just one other person or have multiple suite mates? Make an ordered list starting with your top residence hall to your least desired one. Feel free to make a list of your preferred setups as well. Our email dated April 29th included a list of all suite and room types within each hall to give you a sense of what we offer. We will send that again with your room selection date and time. Talk to your family about your housing budget and then make sure that your roommates are all aware of each other's budgets. Everyone will find out their starting room selection time tomorrow. If you learn that your group leader will not be available at that time and you want to select as soon as you can, you may change who your group leader is. To do so, please email us at housing@cofc.edu. MyHousing.cofc.edu no later than June 1st, and we'll take care of your request. I mentioned the list of all suite room types that we emailed to you previously, and we definitely want you to be familiar with the spaces available to first-year students, so suggest checking out the full list on the Residence Halls section of the Campus Housing webpage. I do have some exciting news, and that is that we are going to open Buist Residence Hall for the fall. We'll update the list of all suite room types with this information. Remember that different roommate group sizes will have different halls available to them based on the suite type in the hall, and of course, what's available at the time of your specific room selection. Now I'd like to open it up for the Q&A. We will be reading off questions and we will get to as many as possible. If your question is not answered here, please know that you can always email or call us with your questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kim Drakeford. I am the Facilities Liaison and Assignments Coordinator for Campus Housing, and I will be reading your questions today. Are you ready, Megan?
I am.
Okay, first question. Are there single dorms for incoming freshmen?
Excellent question. I wish that we were able to offer single rooms for incoming first-year students, but they are quite popular. And so unfortunately, we do not think that we will have any single bedrooms available for first-year students when you select. If you have specific questions, please feel free to reach out to our office.
Thank you. Next question. Can I still pick a roommate if I found one before my assigned room selection date?
Excellent question. Unfortunately, the way that the room selection process works is that we have set all of room selection, and so we're not able to at this point pair together students. However, that doesn't mean that you can't still live with your desired roommate. It just means that you might need to be a little bit creative. So as an example, if I had my room selection time on June 2nd, and I really wanted to live with Kim, and her room selection time was on June 3rd, I may opt to not select my room until June 3rd when Kim could select hers, so that we could then select at the same time and select into the same room. So you won't be able to participate together. One person won't be able to assign a room for someone else, but you still may be able to be direct roommates with them.
Okay, thanks. Next question. Is this session being recorded in case we need to go back and listen?
It absolutely is being recorded. It will be available on YouTube, and we're going to be sending out a link to it. It's also going to live on our housing portal. On the application status page where you'll be able to see your room selection time. So if you ever want to come back and watch it, you'll be welcome to.
Thank you. Next question. Does each student have to select a room, or does the group leader do it on behalf of the entire group?
Great question. So the group leader is going to select the building and room for all students. So if I really wanted to live in Liberty and I was the group leader, I would go ahead and select, and if Kim was again my roommate, then I would select my bed space, and then I would also select the bed space for Kim. Kim is not going to go in. The only person that would go into the portal is the group leader and assign. If you're not in a group, that's okay. You're going to act just as a group leader would, and you're going to assign your own bed.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question. What is the most popular residence hall for incoming students?
Great question. I think that there are actually quite a few popular residence halls. So obviously we would say probably the most popular ones are the large residence halls. So our three largest residence halls are McAllister, Berry, and Liberty. So some students really like those because they like to be around a lot of folks. But other students really like to be in a place like College Lodge, where you're only sharing a room with one other person and sharing a bathroom with one other person. So other students really like to live in a place like 10 Warren because you have a whole bunch of suite mates, but you also have a full-size kitchen. So there's a lot of different amenities and a lot of different things that are popular. So what I always suggest is if you're living by yourself, certainly take a look at the list, see what is most important to you. If you have a roommate group, talk to them, see what's most important, talk about those amenities so that you can find something that works for everyone.
Thank you. Next question. If someone is having to deal with some medical problems such as physical therapy, how might that affect their housing options, and what accommodations might be made for such a student?
Sure. So any students that would be asking for a housing accommodation. So it sounds like in this case that student might have some physical limitations that they would need specific housing for that. I would definitely encourage any student to reach out to Disability Support Services. They're the ones that go over all of that information and make sure that students not only have the accommodations that they would need for their residence hall, but would also have that for classroom spaces. So disability support services is not necessarily always for students that have a disability that is long-term. It can also be considered for a student that may have a short-term disability due to some kind of physical ailment. So contact them with questions, and then certainly we work closely with that office to place students in a space that works for them.
Thank you. Next question. Will a roommate be appointed if a student does not have one?
Sure. So we are not matching together any students that don't have a roommate. So if I was going through room selection by myself, I would then go in and I can still select into any building that is available by the time I select. But what I would be doing is I would be selecting into a suite, and that suite may already have someone. So let's say again that Kim had already selected. So she's already selected into that space. So when I then click on that room card, I would be able to see the room, and then I would also be able to see that Kim is already in it. So I could read a little bit about Kim, and then I could select it. So we will not be selecting specific roommates for anyone. You will be selecting a space, and there may already be a student in there. Or in the case that I just went over, where Kim was already in the room, she would then be able to see my name if she logged back into the portal, and then she would know that she and I had been roommates.
Awesome, thank you. Next question. Does my group leader need to know who I am rooming with to assign a room?
Good question. So yes, so let's say that you're in a roommate group of 4. It's important that your group leader know who are the pairs in that group. So knows who exactly wants to live together, because they're not only going to be selecting, they're going to be selecting a specific bed space. So in the example that we used before, where we showed a room in Barry, each of those bedrooms is associated with a letter. So if it's a 2-bedroom apartment, there would be an A bedroom and a B bedroom. So if Kim and I really want to be roommates together, our group leader would need to know that I would need to be assigned to one of the beds in A, and Kim would be in the other one. So it is important that the group leader know who the roommate pairs in each roommate group are.
Thank you. Next question. What is the soonest possible selection time for a group leader?
Sure. So room selection will start generally for students on June 2nd. And again, we'll be sending out all of that information tomorrow in an email, but the first selection dates are going to be June 2nd, with the exception of some honor students who will be selecting on June 1st.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What's the difference between a room and a suite?
Excellent question. So a suite is the larger space. So if we're looking at something like, we'll use Barry as an example, the suite would encompass everything that the students would get to. So imagine it kind of almost like an apartment, where you have that entry door where you walk in, and then you have multiple rooms within that. So in Barry, as you walk in, you're walking into a shared living space. So it has a little living room area, it has a small kitchenette, and then you have multiple bedrooms and then shared bathrooms. So a room is the bedroom that you would select, the space where the beds are going to be, where a suite would be the collection of rooms and anything else that might be in there, like a common room, bathrooms, kitchens in some cases as well.
All right, thank you. Next question. What if my group only has 3 people as of now?
Sure. So we have reached out to incomplete groups, and we will certainly be reaching out to incomplete groups again with more information, but I don't want anyone to panic. You'll still be able to participate within the room selection process. We're just going to give you some specific directions on what that looks like.
Okay, next question. If I have an application submitted to Disability Services, will I still be selecting my room in the same format?
That's a good question. I would suggest, if you haven't heard back from Disability Services about your specific accommodation, so let's say that you put in an accommodation a couple of weeks ago, then it's going to be important that you reach back out and make sure that you didn't miss any communication from them. They generally communicate everything through email. And so if they had then approved a housing accommodation, they share that with us, and then we've reached out specifically to students about that. Most students still would participate in room selection. It might just look a little bit different. And so I would definitely suggest reaching out to Disability Services. And certainly if you have any questions, reach out to our office, and we're happy to help as well.
Thank you. Next question. When would move-in dates be if you're planning to rush?
Sure. So move-in dates are between August 20th and the 22nd. I know that sorority recruitment, they're talking about different ways of doing that. And due to, COVID and things like that, final plans have not been set for all of those yet. And so look out for more information about that. There may be an early move-in time, but we're still trying to coordinate all of that. Move-in is done by appointment only. So you all will receive more information about that, and you'll receive an opportunity to sign up for a move-in time. All students must sign up for a move-in time, and it will vary depending on the room that you're in. Because those move-in times are set by where you're living, we have to go through all of room selection first before we can open up the process for move-in. But if you have specific questions about sorority recruitment, you can certainly reach out to that office to ask more questions. And I know a little bit more information about that is probably coming out in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you. I think the next question is asking whether the email will be sent to students' personal email addresses or the CFC issued email address.
Sure. So we try whenever possible to communicate. We always communicate to students through their CFC email address. If a personal address has been listed, oftentimes as we're in this kind of transition period before you become a full-fledged student in the fall, we will also communicate through a personal email address. However, as a student, you need to get used to checking your email. A lot of offices and also a lot of professors are going to communicate solely through your CFC email. They're not going to go through and figure out what your personal email is to do that. So there are easy ways of forwarding your CFC email over to your personal email if you just want to deal with one account. But so we will be sending it out to both if they are provided, but we always send everything out through the CFC email for sure.
All right, thank you. Next question. Are we guaranteed to room with the people in our roommate groups?
If you have a roommate group, yes, essentially, you would be selecting into those spaces. So if for any reason you have any questions or if there was any change to that, we'd certainly let you know. But the reason that we've set room selection in the way that we have and we've assigned everything is so that we can kind of predict out and make sure that there are enough room spaces that will hold each group size. So if there was any change to that, we'd certainly let you know. But at this point, it looks like we have enough room for all of those roommate groups.
Perfect, thank you. Next question. Will transfer students be paired with other transfer students?
So once again, we're not pairing students up, so you would be selecting in. So there are going to be specific suites or specific rooms that transfer students are going to be able to potentially see that incoming first-year students wouldn't. So for an example, if we have a room available or a space available in a returning student building, a building that traditionally returning students are in. So I'll use one of our historic houses as an example. You would be able to see that. You would be able to see who else is currently in that room. That might be a returning student or it might be another transfer student, but we don't specifically require that transfer students live with another transfer student or that they don't. I mean, they can certainly live with a first-year student or they can live with a returning student. And so we don't, again, pair them together. So there's not a requirement, but students are certainly, transfer students are certainly welcome to live with either first-year students or returning students.
All right, thank you. Next question. Will we be able to see where the rooms are located within the building?
Sure. So what you're talking about is kind of a floor map that would give the entire building layout. We don't provide that, and the reason we don't provide that is for safety reasons. We don't want to have an entire floor plan of a building out there for folks to see. So if there's a specific question or a specific reason why you would need to be, let's say, closer to an elevator or something like that, you're welcome to call our office and we can go over that information with you, but we don't have that available out in the public for safety.
Awesome. Next question. If we are not a group leader, what do we have to do for housing room selection?
Sure. So if you are in a group, but not a group leader, then what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to make sure that your group leader knows when room selection is. I would also suggest following up with that person. So let's say that you have a room selection time on June 4th at 10 a.m. That's when your group is selecting, but you're just a member. I would say probably around 10:15 or 10:30 on that day. It would be great if all the roommate members would make sure that that roommate group had selected or that roommate leader had selected a space, and then you all know. So as a member of a group, you don't have to do anything specifically besides make sure that your group leader is prepared and knows what you're looking for and the rest of the group members do, but you don't have to do anything specifically for room selection.
Awesome. Next question. Do you have dimensions of the rooms?
Sure. So what you're asking for is basically a floor plan. And so we do have floor plans and it gives the square footage. We don't have that a room is, say, 12 feet long and 12 feet wide. We don't have those pieces. That information isn't there, but we do have the square footage. Since every single one of our rooms is a little bit different, we offer the square footage available on rooms. And again, you would be able to see that by clicking on the more room info on the room card of each space. You can also see sample floor plans on the residence hall page under the campus housing webpage.
Okay, next question. Can you go over what is happening again tomorrow, meaning the assigning of the date and time of room selection?
Sure. So tomorrow, all students are going to get an email that lets them know that the room selection dates and times have been posted. That information is going to be posted on the application status page. So you'll get an email letting you know that it's there, and then students can log into the MyHousing portal and get to the application status and see when that is. That's all that's happening tomorrow. So we're just sending out that information tomorrow so students can then be prepared to know when, if they're an individual they're selecting, or if they're in a group, when their group will be allowed to select that housing. So once you get that, if you have any specific questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office.
Hi, everyone. This is Meredith. I am the slide clicker, and I realized that I clicked very quickly through the suite and room types by size of roommate group. So I wanted to just take a minute to share that slide again at the request of some folks. And of course, this presentation is being recorded, and everybody will have a chance to go back through and pause and stare at this and think about where they want to live with their groups. But I just wanted to put this up for another few seconds for you guys to take a look and get a sense of things. And I don't know, Megan, if you wanted to, you talked about it, but I think just
Sure.
visual will help. So
yeah, and I can talk a little bit more. So something to kind of think about. So depending on your group size, and as you're kind of looking through those different sizes. So if you're a group of 2, let's say, you have a lot of different options because you could fit into a room for 4 people, a room for 6 people, a room for 8 people. So there's a lot of options for you that are out there. For other group sizes, you want to make sure that you're looking carefully at that list. So let's say that you're a group of 6. So a group of 6 would be able to select into Barry, McAllister, McConnell, or 10 Warren. So that's important to know that if someone in the group said, oh, I'd really like to live in College Lodge, well, that's not going to be available for a group of 6. So you want to make sure that you're kind of removing that from the list so that you know, okay, here are the spaces that we would be able to have. Roommate groups have to be able to, you have to be able to assign all roommate groups to a space. So you wouldn't be able to say be a roommate group of 4 and be selecting into College Lodge since each of those rooms only hold 2 students. So you would need to make sure that you're selecting into a space. The system won't let you actually assign beds because it will say you haven't assigned this person a bed, and so therefore it won't let you go any further. But just to save time in the room selection process, you want to make sure you know you have that list of buildings that you can select into and that it's prioritized by your group with what your top choice is, what your second choice, third choice, fourth choice. I know everybody wants to absolutely get their first choice. We would love to be able to provide that. However, we want people to be prepared. So go through and make that full list. You may be able to get into the first thing that your top choice, but you may also have to go to a next one. And so we want you to feel prepared. And certainly for the group leader, we want the group leader to make sure that they feel prepared and they know exactly what other group members are looking for.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Next question. Are there RAs in every hall?
Yes, there are RAs in every hall. There are multiple RAs. Normally the RA is on the floor, is on each floor, but depending on the size of the building and the setup, there might be 2 RAs per floor, or your RA may be a floor above or below you, but there definitely are RAs on each space. For those of you who don't know what an RA is a resident assistant, and their job is to help build community. So they're there as a resource. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you feel homesick, or if you don't know where your classes are, or if you really want to get involved on campus and want to know ways to do that, your RA is going to be a really great resource for you. So you'll meet them a little bit once you get assigned to housing. You'll probably hear from them in August before you arrive on campus, welcoming you. And then certainly when you are here, they'll be the ones that are putting on programs to help get you acclimated to campus and get you to meet friends.
Thank you. Next question. For room selection, are we given a designated time slot for when we're allowed to select a room, or is it first come, first serve?
Sure. So every student is given a time slot. That time slot is based off of when a student selected or when a student completed their housing application. So if you're in a roommate group, again, Kim and I are in a roommate group. If I applied on February 1st and Kim didn't apply till March 1st, then our room assignment, our room selection time is going to be based on when I applied, the earliest time that's available. And so every student is going to get that. And a reminder, the room selection time that you get, that's your starting time for room selection. So let's say that your room selection is at on June 4th at 10 a.m. That means that that's when you can start selecting. You can go in at that time. But let's say that you are in school still and you have class, let's say, until 10:30, and you need to be able to select after that. That's okay. Once your room selection time opens, it will remain open until June 10th at 4 p.m. June 10th at 4 p.m., it will close down and you will not be able to select housing anymore. So it's really important that everyone select housing by June 10th at 4 p.m. But you will be given a specific date and time by which you can get in and do that.
Awesome. Next question. So about assigning beds, you mentioned A and B. Would my group leader have to select B for herself and A for me in order for us to room together?
Great question. So it's actually the opposite. So think of the letters as, and when you see it, it will say, let's say we're looking at Barry. It will say Barry 101A1, Barry 101A2. So the 1 and the 2 are the beds that are in the beds that are in that specific room. So A and A are together, B and B are together. If you're in a 3-bedroom apartment, C and C together, and D and D together. So if you're selecting rooms, if you're the group leader, you would need to make sure that you're selecting the same letter for each roommate pair.
Okay, great. Next question. Will there be any single-sex housing for the fall? I saw that both all male and all female dorms were being renovated this year.
Sure. So originally we had anticipated that both Craig and Buste were going to be offline for the fall, and we had actually held those out due to COVID. However, based on obviously the availability of vaccines and other things, we feel more confident that we're not going to need quite as much space, and we hope we don't need any space at all for students for COVID purposes. But with that said, we've decided to bring Buste back online. So Buste is going to be an all-female hall. There is more information about that on our residence halls page. I definitely encourage students to, especially our female students, obviously, to check that out. Buste has been a favorite hall of many of our students for many years. It's a hall where most students say that they get the most connection and really get to know their roommate and suite mates, or roommate and the folks around them. So I definitely encourage you to check that out. There's more information on that residence halls page under campus housing.
Awesome, thank you. Next question. Which hall would be best for someone who likes more privacy or a private space but would still like to cook?
Sure. So it's a little bit hard because I think the like to cook piece would lend me towards wanting to make sure that you are in a space that has a kitchen. So there are suites that have kitchens that are apartment style, that have a kitchen within the suite. So for some students that are thinking, okay, I really like to cook every day, let's say, then I would want to make sure that you're selecting into a space like Kelly or 10 Warren. But if you're someone that's like, I really just like to, let's say, be able to bake, and I like to be able to, bake cookies for my friends. So I want to be able to have access to a kitchen, but I don't necessarily need to use it every day. I don't need it specifically in my own space. Then you can really select from anything. So as you're looking at something that's private, certainly looking at a space like Kelly or 10 Warren is also nice, because not only would you have the bedroom that you have, and you're obviously sharing the bedroom with another person, but you will have some of those common areas. So you're going to be looking at stuff like you're going to have that living area, that kitchen that you would be able to have. Each hall also has common lounges. So if you find, you like to be able to study, but you like to be able to do that in more of a social atmosphere, a lot of students will then use the lounge space to do that. Because you can still be down, you can still be getting work done, but you can also be kind of close to other people, and other folks may come in, they may be, studying as well, or they may be hanging out with friends. And so those are options within each hall as well.
Great, thanks. Next question, one of my favorite questions to answer. Who is responsible for cleaning the common areas of a suite?
Oh my goodness, great question. Well, I would suggest everybody, you go over to the bathroom and you look at the mirror. and that is the person that's going to be responsible for cleaning your rooms. So all students are responsible for cleaning their own spaces. The only exception to that is those lucky students who get to live in Buse Residence Hall. Because those are community shared baths, those are actually cleaned by our custodial staff on a daily basis. So those students would not have to clean their bathrooms, but they still have to clean their rooms. So every student is going to have to learn how to clean. If you don't know how to clean, that's okay. This is the opportunity to ask friends or ask family members for advice and tips. It's also a really great gift to get from people is those cleaning supplies, so you don't have to get those once you get here. Our common areas, so things like hallways, stairwells, those are cleaned by our custodial staff. However, the rest of the space, anything that's within that room space, that suite space, is going to be the responsibility of the students that live there.
Awesome. Next question. Is furniture provided for common areas in the suites, and are microwaves provided?
Sure. So in the areas that have common area furniture, they would be. So in an area like in a building like 10 Warren, right, where you have an apartment, we do have common area furniture that's in there. So it's normally a couch and a single chair, as well as an end table. Microwaves are provided. So refrigerators and microwaves are provided in every single suite, or if it's just a room set up, then it would be in a room. So as an example, in College Lodge, there's a refrigerator and microwave in every single room. Where in a place like McAllister, the refrigerator and microwave would be shared by that suite. But every single one has a refrigerator and microwave. So I do not suggest that students bring their own microwave or their own refrigerator. Sometimes students may need a refrigerator for things like medication or something like that, and they may want to bring a small one. You're certainly welcome to do that, but I can tell you from watching students move out at the end of the year, one of the most common things that we see that is donated at the end of the year, or we don't like this, but sometimes people throw them away, are those mini fridges. And so to kind of cut down on that, we definitely suggest that students not purchase that and use what is provided for them.
Okay, great. Next question. If I submitted a disability form on requiring single housing, when should I receive a response on it? Do I go through with room selection or wait until a response is given for it?
Sure. So I would definitely suggest reaching out to disability services as soon as possible, and they would be able to give you a specific answer. And then certainly if you have questions after that about the housing process, give us a call, but they would be able to do that. As a reminder, it's right on the website, disability services request accommodations were due on May 1st. So if requests came in after that, I know that they are trying to get to those as soon as possible, but I would definitely give that office a call. As a reminder, that office goes through the documentation and then makes a recommendation to campus housing, and we certainly try the best that we can to get those accommodations. But if you have a specific question, they would be the ones to answer that.
Awesome. Next question. If I am the group leader and have already selected a roommate who paid the deposit earlier than I did, will we get a date based on his priority?
Yes. So whoever has the best a completion date, essentially, that's what it's going to be based on. So the whole roommate group, you know, when you all go onto your portal, if Kim and I are together in a room, we're both going to see the exact same time. But since Kim would be the group leader, she's going to be the one that's actually selecting it. So I would still be able to see that on my portal. And that's good because I want to be able to remind Kim, you know, the day before, hey, Kim, don't forget that we have, you need to select a room for us tomorrow at 10:30. And then I would certainly be able to see that room once it's selected in the portal, but she would be the one that would be doing that specifically.
All right, thank you. Next question. If my roommate is an honors student and I am not, will I still be able to select the honors dorm for both of us?
Great question. So it really depends on how many other students are in your roommate group and how many honors students are in each roommate group. So we were actually going through this information today, and we're going to be sending out a detailed email to students that are honors students that are either in full honors roommate groups or in partial honors roommate groups, letting folks know what those options are. That's where earlier in the presentation when I was saying that process has a lot of nuance to it, that's what we were referring to. And so check out that email. Every student that is either in a roommate group with an honor student or is an honor student will get more information about that tomorrow.
All right, thank you. Next question. Are the beds able to be completely lofted in a residence hall like McAllister?
Sure. So once you click on, once you're in the portal and you click on that room card and you're able to see the floor plan, that's the floor plan for your specific room. So where before I was referencing the residence halls page under the campus housing webpage, where you can look at sample floor plans, those are what is most commonly found. But what you'll be able to see once you get in is your specific one. So I can tell you specifically in McAllister, the beds are semi-lofted, meaning that you can put some things under them, but they can't be lofted all the way to the ceiling, let's say, so you can put a lot of stuff under them. So we do have some lofted beds on campus, and what you'll be able to see is on those sample floor plans, you'll be able to see if the building style has lofted beds or semi-lofted beds, or in the case of Barry has a different style bed. It's a little bit lower actually than a semi-lofted bed, but all of that information, including bed dimensions, desk sizes, all of that stuff is also available on each residence hall's page. So if you click on that McAllister residence hall page, you'll be able to read about the specific dimensions of the bed. You'll be able to see a picture of the bed, but students aren't able to create lofts. So let's say that you wanted to have a lot of space under your bed in McAllister. Unfortunately, you can't create lofts, and that's for safety reasons. It has to stay at that level that it is. And you can certainly, there's a lot of storage area under semi-lofted beds, and there's certainly a lot of storage area under lofted beds as well.
Thank you, Megan. As the facilities liaison, I would also like to add, we encourage you to not try to adjust the bed heights yourselves for safety reasons. Our facilities maintenance staff uses special tools to secure the beds. And also, if you are needing your bed lowered for a medical reason, you will have to go through the Center for Disability Services for an accommodation so that we can approve your request. Okay, moving on to the next question. Are the prices of the rooms per person, or are they divided amongst roommates?
Sure. So the prices that are listed, you're talking about on the residence halls page and also within the housing portal. Those are per person per semester. And as a reminder, those are the current rates. So the rates that are listed there, it says the 2021 academic year. Our rates are updated every year by the Board of Trustees in mid-June. So those rates could adjust slightly. If that happens, we'll certainly let you all know. And our website will also be updated. So keep an eye on that. But all rates that are listed there are per person per semester. It would not be something that would be split out amongst roommates.
All right, thanks. Next question. Can we have guests in our room? If so, how many? And could they be either male or female?
Sure. So guests is a really great question. So certainly based on what happened, with COVID and everything last year, we certainly had to restrict our visitation policies. So I know that Residence Life and the Dean of Students Office is certainly going over that information, and we hope to go back to normal policies around that. So that information would be available on the Residence Life webpage, there's a link off of our webpage to be able to get there. About visitation, again, we do anticipate that students will be able to have visitors, and there's very specific information about how often that can happen, how long guests can stay, and all of that. The most important thing, though, with this is, regardless of what the rules are, is that the first thing that you would do is start with a conversation with your roommate. And make sure that your roommate or your suite mates are comfortable with that. So there might be a rule saying, okay, this person can, come over and stay for, X number of hours or things like that. That's great. But if your roommate or suite mate aren't comfortable with that, it's going to be really important. So especially in these COVID times where we're all still trying to figure out what makes us feel comfortable, it's really important that you have those conversations. So another really great conversation to start having with your roommates, if you already have selected them, or if you're going to be selecting into a space where you don't know your roommates, a great thing to start talking about is, what are we comfortable with, in terms of guests? When can we have guests? And then obviously there's the policy that goes along with that, but at least you started that conversation and know what's okay with the folks that you're living with.
Thank you. Next question. How is room selection different for honor students?
Sure. So we're going to send out more information to honor students specifically because it depends a little bit on your roommate group and different things. So we'll send out a very specific email tomorrow. If you have any questions after you read that over, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
All right. Next question. Can we get the couch removed within the suite? I believe that's what this question is asking.
Sure. So I would love to be able to remove furniture when people want it, but within the housing contract, it actually states that furniture cannot be removed from the room. So all the furniture that is provided has to stay in the room. So that couch has to stay there. As you know, College of Charleston is, on the peninsula, and there's not a lot of room here. And so we don't have storage space to be able to remove furniture when students don't want that. I will say that our furniture is pretty nice, in particular the couches that are in there. Many of them have been updated in the last several years. Other students, like let's say that you get in there and you don't love the color, they will put a blanket over or something like that changes it. But unfortunately, you will have to keep all the furniture that is in place in the room.
All right, thank you. Next question, and this is actually our last question. How is the temperature in the rooms and suites? Do we need to bring fans?
Great question. So a question that oftentimes people ask us is there air conditioning in every residence hall? Thank goodness, yes, there is, because we are in South Carolina. And if you have never been in South Carolina in August, you are in for knowing what it feels like to be really warm. So air conditioning is available in every single one of our residence halls. It's up to you if you would like to bring a fan. I know that some students like to have like a small fan sometimes just to move air. Temperature is sometimes controlled. It's different for every single building. So sometimes students have less control, so they wouldn't have a thermostat necessarily that they could adjust. Sometimes students have more control. And so if you have a specific medical concern about that, definitely give us a call. Actually call our office and speak directly to Kim. She's the expert in that. But outside of that, you may want to. But a lot of those things that if you're not sure, right? So it's the same thing on something like, let's say, a mini refrigerator. Do I want a mini refrigerator so I might be able to, keep my snacks that I really like near me? I would suggest on waiting on some of those things until you've been here. Wait a week or two. See if that's something that you then end up want. You can always order those things and obviously have them delivered or go and get them, but that way you're not getting something and then never using it. We see a lot of stuff at the end of the semester that we try to donate to local charities, but sometimes actually students end up throwing out that they never use throughout the year. So rather than wasting that money, I would definitely suggest getting the bare necessities that you need. Again, we have a what to bring with you and what not to bring on our website. But I would suggest waiting on some of those things until you're here and can really understand what it's going to be like. And then you can go ahead and purchase things from there. All right. Is that the end of the questions?
That was our last question.
Awesome. All right. Well, I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. Please remember to review the Campus Housing website and keep an eye on your College of Charleston email account for important updates from us and other college offices. For those of you that are graduating, we wish you such a big congratulations, and we can't wait to see you this fall.